Mav's Coffee Clarity with Denise is brought to you in partnership with Drive Media and Consulting and their premier sponsors. Subscribe on your favorite streaming platforms and share. If you just found us, welcome. And if you're a regular, welcome back. Denise DiGrigoli has spent her life in the creative industries as an entrepreneur, helping people transform their visions into thriving businesses, working with individuals and teams to find their purpose and live their life vibrantly. On her pod, Denise delivers business intel and life hacks with wit and wisdom in short shots like a strong espresso with a solid sense of humor. Enjoy this episode of Mav's Coffee Clarity, and here's Mav.
Welcome, my friends. You are on Mav's Coffee Clarity with Denise. We're a show designed to move you forward in work, life, and self-care. And come on, who doesn't need that nowadays? If you've just found me, welcome. And if you're a regular, welcome back. You know this is where we spill the beans on business intel and life hacks, real conversations of grit, creativity, tenacity, and the silver linings that accompany it. Now, when it's not just me navigating here, I bring on some incredible guests that share their stories of adventures, tenacity, and resiliency so that we can move forward. Think of it like coffee with a friend. We hope that you come here and you walk away with a little bit of tidbit that helps you move forward. And today is no different, my friends. We have a very special person in the house, Dawn Nargi. She is the founder and executive director of W Connection. Why is that important to you, my friends? Because it helps women get through the tragic loss of their loved one or partner. It's a service for widows, and Dawn has championed this cause since she unfortunately lost her husband very suddenly in 2009, my friend?
In 2000.
When you had a brand new baby.
Yes, in 2008.
And she was referred to me so she could tell us her story and help us move forward, not only with the W Connection, but a new product that she's designed to help us with our last laughs. Welcome, Dawn.
I am so thrilled to be here.
And you came in from the city today. You had good weather, thank heavens. And we're thrilled. You were referred by your press agent. And I thought this really aligns with what we do at Mav's Coffee Clarity, right?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I think those words about moving forward are exactly what we do with the W Connection, exactly what we want to do with Last Laughs as well.
So what we'd like to do with our listening audience is just give them a little insight. You were a Wall Street executive. I'm going to say probably on the power panel, even though I didn't know you, but I see your fabulous energy. And you were working, and then you had a baby.
Yeah.
And he was premature, wasn't he?
Yeah. So my son, William, was born 2 months premature. Mm-hmm. He spent 1 month in neonatal intensive care. And I guess I'll just continue my story, but there is a happy ending. We're going to move forward through trauma. So my son, William, was born 2 months premature. He spent 1 month in neonatal intensive care. And when we came out, my husband, Norman, who I thought was so connected with me and feeling sympathy pains, and we were one, he was still feeling them.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, like every lovely wife would be, get to the doctor. You have to help me. Go figure out what's wrong and come back. We found out that he had spots on his liver, kidney, and spleen.
Wow.
We found out it was cancer. We were told he would have 15 years to live. He died 2 months later when my son, William, was 3 months old. So I was a new mom and a new widow and still on maternity leave and just had no idea how to be a new mom, had no idea how to be a widow.
Wow, and I'm usually never speechless. Woo! That was a roller coaster ride. Now, I'm not going to ask how old you were at that time, but did you have help around you? Like, what did you do?
I do have, I think you don't know at this point. I'm trying to take myself back to that first day when I was widowed. And I think the first thing that's interesting is all of the rituals that we have. I think we have them for a reason because it moves you through this process. So you're
like
not
what kind
even
of
thinking
rituals?
about it.
Because you have a baby. I mean, you're trying to feed the baby how many times a day and night, and you probably have no sleep.
Yes. So it was of the, in the midst of that, picking out the casket, figuring out where he was going to be buried, all of those things. The great thing about my family is my family swarmed around me and helped me go through this process of even buying a black suit because I was a different weight. And I had to even get a suit for the weight. So going through that process of burying my husband, all of those rituals, my family swarmed around.
Had you ever had significant loss at this point? Had you ever had someone really close to you pass?
Nothing.
So you were like totally blindsided.
Right. Totally blindsided.
Oh.
Didn't even think that people died. That's the...
Right. We don't believe that.
Yeah.
We're going to
we
live
forget,
forever.
We kind of forget.
Right. I would be kind of miffed that they told me 15 years and you didn't get 15 months.
Yeah. Yeah. It was definitely a roller coaster of we're going to fight this battle. We are going to win this. We had these Live Strong bracelets that we had we were ready to go. My son had a Live Strong onesie, and we were going to do this. Yeah.
Yeah.
My dog had a Live Strong collar.
Yeah.
And then, we really thought we would win this battle, and we didn't.
And you didn't. I'm sorry for your loss. And that was in 2008?
That was in 2008, yes.
And did your job expect you to go back to your position?
So the wonderful thing when I was first widowed is that my job was actually really good. They called me
Thank
up.
heavens.
Yeah, they called me up, and when I talk about this, I actually get a little bit teary-eyed. Maybe not today, but I remember I had changed my boss because I was supposed to be out for 3 months. It ended up being maternity leave into bereavement leave, and my new boss called me up. He's like, Nargi, I'm so sorry. He goes, it's terrible.
It is terrible.
And that was exactly what he needed to say, right? It just laid it out there. He said, but you know what? We really want you back. What do you need?
What did you need?
I needed a little bit more time.
Okay. You need more time.
So that was good. That I had another couple of months on my leave, on my bereavement leave, and then when I came back, I tried to focus on my job.
And what skills did you use? I'm imagining you're a high-powered Wall Street executive. You've got a baby. Are you living in the city at the time?
I'm living in the city at the time.
New York City? Yes.
Yeah. So I did actually, this was actually, we talked about an article years ago in the New York Times that focused on how I moved through this. And one of the things that when I was at my job, I was 100% at my job. I told people, please don't talk to me about the death of my husband. There was nothing anybody was going to say that
would change it. Yeah.
That would change it. So I said, you know what? When I'm at work, let's focus on being at work. When I'm home, I focused on the baby. And then when I was at my bereavement group, I just vomited out the grief. I just sometimes say I'd get there and I'd cry the whole hour and a half.
I have to say, honestly, I've never been to a bereavement group, but I would imagine that is what catapulted you to designing W Connection.
Yes. So what happened was, and again, the interesting thing, if you were to, you even see how I got stuck on the first question. It's like, how'd you move through this? It's step by step, right? With every trauma that we go through, especially with widowhood, there's no playbook. So what did I do? Step one.
Yeah. What did you do?
Step three. So.
Did you design this yourself, or did the bereavement group design it?
Well, this is W Connection was me and a co-founder. So what happened was I went to Gilda's Club for my bereavement group, Gilda Radner.
Oh, yes.
And they had the people who lost their significant others way in the back. Then the front was about fighting cancer, and the back was our group as a mixed group of people who had lost a partner, people who have lost a child, and people who had lost a parent. So
all horrific.
A little bit of a different dynamic. So after about 8 months, they told me I was ready to graduate.
Oh, they just gave you 8 months? How long were you married to Norman that they only gave you 8 months?
Yeah, maybe it was based on the number of time married. I was married for 7 years.
So you get 1 month per year and an extra bonus.
7 years plus one. So So what they said, and I kind of went, well, wait a second. I did get through.
I mean, it takes 9 months to make a baby. I really want them to give you like a year.
So I did get through all of that, like I said, vomiting out the grief. But now I was like, okay, how do I keep my demanding job on Wall Street? How do I take care of my kid? How do I pay the mortgage? We had just bought the apartment that I live in today. How do I even like things like walking the dog at night could throw me over the edge, right? So once I left Builders Club, I went, wait a second, I'm not done. I didn't graduate.
See, I was right. You needed more than the 8 months.
More. and
a smart businesswoman knew that. What is happening here? 8 months. No, I'm sure Gilda's Club was fabulous.
Yes,
I'm making fun of it.
Yes, absolutely. They were fabulous. But I think what happens is, again, what is the nuance between the difference between bereavement group and what I do?
Yes, what is it?
Bereavement group is really, it's about getting through that initial loss, that trauma, and then what we do is peer support. It's about how do I, like you say, move forward after this loss, after this trauma. And that's what the W Connection does.
So the W Connection, because I did my homework and you supplied me with a lot of good stuff as well, has been around formally since 2009. And you have served thousands of people and you have an international footprint. Do you have facilitators? What did you do to craft this? And how is it different than bereavement?
So when we first started the W Connection, we started with a woman who was a social worker who helped children with who were dealing with terminal illnesses. She also helped children who were dealing with loss, right? But the woman is
so she was
amazing.
like a grief counselor.
But absolutely a breath of fresh air. I read about her in a book, The Day the Goldfish Went on Vacation, and I met her. She and I connected. She became my counselor. And then she said, Dawn, you know what? I love what you do. I'm seeing so many widows. Why don't we meet everybody in my office? She was the first one that formulated that group with us. And we went, wow, this is really what this is. We knew there was a connection. When we started the W Connection, we knew there was a power of peer support, right?
Right.
Unless you walk this path of widowhood, you don't understand, and you can't understand. You can't understand the devastating loss, the financial implications, the legal implications, the raising your child on your own, and then continue with social isolation, loneliness, and all that other stuff. So it
takes on like a whole new life.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
You've got this whole new life, and it's not a life you want at all.
Right.
You didn't sign up for it.
Right.
But now you're dealt it.
Right. And think about, when you get married, you do this in a different way, in a happy way. You go, hey, where are we going to live? Okay, let's live here. This is great.
You might even throw a housewarming.
Right. And here you're making those same decisions, but it's with grief, with loss, with trauma.
Alone.
Wondering if you can do it.
So prior to, you said you didn't have any loss. You have this significant loss. You go back to work. And I read in 2017, you said, that's enough. I'm going out to be solely the executive director of W Connection. Was that hard? Because you just made all these decisions. You've been raising your baby. You've made all these choices. I'm sure it's not a little wimpy job, Wall Street. So how do you go from that to that?
I think W Connection was I knew I had to do it.
What told you, though? Was there like a gut? Did you get some angelic message?
I think I knew that this was so devastating and there was so much power in the support of other people who had gone through this. I just, in my gut, I knew I had to do it. And still today, I mean, W Connection is inside of me. So in 2017, we were too big for me to run on nights and weekends.
Okay, so there was a natural ebb and flow, and you felt it coming.
Right.
How did you prepare for that? Like, how does somebody prepare for like, hey, I'm leaving my Wall Street job, which was probably your only sense of security at that point, right?
I once said to somebody, and maybe I shouldn't say this. So
Say it. We're spill the beans, Dawn.
So I've had 3 businesses in my life, right?
Okay.
And they said, well, how'd you start your business? I said, I was too stupid to figure out that I couldn't do it.
Chance favors the prepared mind of sorts.
But what somebody told me, so that was the bad way I used to say it. But somebody told me, he goes, you know what, Dawn, you were just a present moment thinker.
Okay. We might even have to call that a key bean here today, my friends. Present moment thinker. I'm going to hashtag that.
So I think I just don't think of all the whys I can't do it.
Woo! I want you to hear that one. I don't think of all the whys I can't do it. I know a lot of people that think about why they can't do it, and they get stagnated in procrastination and fear.
Right.
So is that false evidence appearing real to you, and you just say, screw it, I'm moving forward?
Too stupid to figure out that I can't do it.
Okay, so what were the 3 businesses prior to W Connection?
So they were all technology consulting businesses. One was DMN Consulting Group, my name.
Yes.
The second one was Seneca Group that I had with a partner that we built a product for Wall Street firms to handle human resources transactions for smaller firms. And we sold it. And we sold it and we customized it and it was great. And then...
So you were a STEM girl before STEM girl was cool.
yes.
Was there any like pushback on being a STEM girl when it wasn't cool? Because that's a tough industry, right? Technology, breaking through. You weren't with the bros, or you were with the bros.
Yeah, it's very funny because I tell my son's 17 now. Believe that happens. And I said to him one day, I was like, well, William, when Mama first got into technology, I said it was just me. I said I was the only woman there.
And I want to point out, my friends, that we are creating this episode live. We are always live and unedited, but it's Women's International
Yes.
month.
Yes.
So this couldn't be more appropriate. So you were the only woman in the space at the time?
Yeah, there was a lot of, I remember being in situations where I was the only woman. And again, I just walked in there going, okay, I know what I'm doing.
Were you ever intimidated?
No.
No. And when the bros gave you pushback, what'd you say? Or was it your body language? We talked a lot about body language on the way over.
So let me think about this again. Let me go back all those years. I think I would walk. I remember a lot of times we were in the computer room, right? Like you didn't have the computer department. You had the computer room where the IBM computers were, right? Big cold rooms, And I think I would walk in, I would see the group, take a deep breath and go, I know what I'm doing. And
so that was confidence. You had an innate confidence.
Yeah, they would push.
Yeah.
But I kind of would let them know I know what I'm doing.
So
Right.
let's just pause there for a quick second, because I think this is important. A lot of women, and I do business with a lot of both women and men, but primarily I see women struggle with this. Like they're really smart. They have the confidence. They know what they're doing, but somehow they walk into that fishbowl, and some of them are like, even though they're the most badass bitches I know. So did you feel that and just move through it, or were you innately cool?
I think I had a very tough dad. My dad didn't coddle us, right? So, I think it's just...
Are you one of several?
I'm one of 4.
Okay, fair enough. That's middle of the road, several.
Yeah.
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 Are you the oldest or the youngest?
I'm the youngest.
Okay. And were you the only girl in STEM?
Back then, yeah, not anymore.
No, in your family.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Okay. So you're in STEM and you sell these companies, and then you go to Wall Street and work? Is that it?
I was in even with the companies,
okay.
I was in Wall Street. I ended up on Wall Street most of my career.
Okay. So now we're back over at the W Connection. You're helping all these ladies. What's your greatest Maverick moment over there? Like, what keeps you going every day?
I think what's really amazing to me is that I have 52 volunteers.
Wow.
So I think what's really amazing
52 volunteers. Like, how does someone get that?
It's
There must be a need.
So grateful to them because they are as passionate about the mission and vision of the W Connection as I am. And they're all across the country. It's
Really?
amazing. Mm-hmm.
So if I unfortunately lose my husband very quickly and I want to become part of the W Connection, take me there on my first day.
So what we do is we this is very hard for some widows, right? Some
Right.
people come in and they see my organization online, or they get referred and they sign up, they jump in a meeting, they're good to go. But then there's other women, it needs to be small steps, right? They look at our website, then they hit subscribe. Then they might come to an orientation meeting. But we handle both of those things so every woman who signs up for our organization gets what's called a first connect.
Okay.
So that is a woman who calls the new widow coming in and saying, hey, let me talk to you. Let me hear your story. Let me know what you're struggling with. And let me set you up so that you can sign up for your first meeting. And I will come with you to that first meeting.
And so we were talking about this on the way over, the longevity. You're glad when you see people leave your organization because you know you've been a success.
Absolutely.
What is the biggest struggle? And I hope I don't get there as soon as you did ever. And I'm sorry for your loss. What's the biggest struggle you see women have, whether they've known the death was coming or the death was sudden of their partner? Like, what's the biggest thing that knocks them out?
It really depends. I mean, so here's what we talk about. You know, there is that devastating loss, that overwhelming sadness. That could be your thing. There is other risk and losses. There's a financial risk, right? There could be parenting on your own. There could be social isolation and loneliness.
Yeah, that's a big one.
And even, you know, there are some widows who went back to their jobs and they were demoted because they couldn't do it all. So it really...
so there's a consequence.
Yeah, sometimes there is.
Isn't that interesting? Do you think that they were discriminated against or they just couldn't go back to the job and handle it?
I think, you know, it depends what it is with handling a job, right?
Right.
What is that, right? Shouldn't there be, there's even Vivek Murthy, the Surgeon General for Obama and Biden, you know, he put out a public health agenda about supporting people through trauma like widowhood. So what can companies do to help you get through this? Like, should it be expected for somebody to come back in? Like, I did, and other people did, but maybe in 6 months, that's where they fell apart because they didn't have the support. So should it be expected for me to be 100% coming back? No.
No. It's interesting because I'm the kind of person that would just push through something traumatic that happened, and then about 6 months out, it would all resonate with me one day on the beach or riding my bike or skiing. I'd be like, oh gosh, you know. Right. So sometimes I displace those things because I'm very busy, and I feel like, you know, I was raised by kind of a strict father too. Let's get it done. Let's get it done. Right. It's interesting. So do you have those conversations with your widows? Like, listen, it's okay if you don't go back 100%?
Oh, absolutely. You know, our meetings are so powerful. So I was actually substituting for one of my volunteers who had a parent-teacher conference that night with her teacher. So I substituted, and we always have two facilitators in the room. And in listening to the women, they're upset that they're not moving through things quick enough.
Right. We all want to get it done.
They're beating themselves up. And I stopped the meeting for a moment and I said, you know what? Let me tell you what I see.
What do you see?
I see amazing women who went through a devastating loss, who found my organization, not knowing anybody, clicked on the link to join, not knowing anybody, showed up to this meeting on their own. This is amazing.
So in your process through losing Norman and then starting all of this, I know, you know, Gilda gave you like 8 months. What's the typical spread that somebody hangs out with you at the W Connection?
So anywhere from about, let's say 3 to 5 years. But the wonderful thing, the program that we have now.
That's even longer than I expected, but okay, good.
The wonderful thing that we have now is we have this thing called a GEM program. And a GEM is actually part of our From Grief to Growth path, right?
Yeah.
So what a GEM is, it's somebody who has moved through our programs and feels ready to give back. And they either give back by volunteering or they either give back by donating every month.
Is there a membership fee for your people?
There is a membership fee. We think it's important because we want that person to make a clear step in joining the organization. Earlier in the organization, we didn't have a membership fee. And it's nominal, right? And it's on a sliding scale. And even if we never want somebody to be turned away, so if they couldn't afford it, they easily get a kindness membership. So we have a sliding scale, and I forgot where I went.
I'm sorry, because I tapped the mic. Well, I also, as a business consultant, will say this: free is never free, and I think you need to assign a value, right, and give it value. It makes a commitment. So I was just curious because I looked on your website, but I didn't see the fee. And I think it's important that we mention that because it's a service. And even though there's a great deal of volunteerism, and I love the GEM program, I think it's important to note that you've been doing this, 10 years? 20 years almost.
Oh, my God, almost 20 years.
You were going, because your son is 17.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so that brings me to my next thought on these cards called The Last Laugh. I don't know, my friends on YouTube, now remember, we're on all the podcast stations and YouTube, my friends. So you're looking at these cards called The Last Laugh. This is a new product that you have also co-authored, and I shared them with my family last night en route to this conversation. Great. Some people in my family do not like to talk about death. I feel it's a spiritual honor to bring someone to the other side. Now, that being said, I would never want the carpet pulled out from under me. I would prefer not. But I do feel like it's part of life. And so I was reading through the cards, and it's funny. 92% of the population believe that the end of life or last wishes, these conversations are important, but only 32% will even venture down that road. So these cards, Last Laugh, is, you guys call it a wacky, fun, hilarious game, and it is hilarious. And you play it with 2 or 4 people, and you read the cards, and you kind of think about it, and then there's an action QR code. So if you're really interested in it, you can QR it, and there's resources. Are these resources going back to W Connection or to another place?
Both.
Okay. So tell me how you developed that. Like, now you're 17 years in, and all of a sudden we have the Last Laugh cards. Look at the cool illustrations.
So let's sort of go back to those risks that I talked about.
Right.
So if Norman and I would have had these conversations before about finances. Again, we had a brand new mortgage and a brand new baby. If Norman and I would have had conversations about the DNR, if Norman and I would have had conversations.
So you had none of this?
We
Because, of course, you thought you had 15 years. Why do it now? We only have 2 months.
Here's the we just bought the apartment. We got married. We just bought the apartment. It was a 2-bedroom in Manhattan. Like, wow, who gets this? Let's try and fill the second room. Immediately got pregnant. So I think we would have had some of these conversations later, but this was still just starting a new life, not planning.
There was a lot of excitement.
A lot of excitement. Yeah. So I think even things like, my son and I have played the game too. The interesting thing about my son is my son grew up with this. Not only the loss of his dad, who he didn't know. My mom passed 2 years ago. My dad passed 5 years ago. And my dog Canyon, our dog we had when William was a baby. So William has gone through a lot of loss. He's very comfortable talking about loss. But it was so great to go through the cards with him because even the things that I thought we talked about, we didn't. So for instance, this is a great one of the cards. one of the cards, and I should find it and read it, but it says, if you wanted, so-and-so came down and they uploaded parts of your personality
Yes.
into the spaceship, what do you want to be remembered by? And it was really interesting. It was such a heartfelt conversation with my son, because I just went, wow, this is one of those things that is good for him to know that you would never get to without these cards. You may get to, hey, this is the spreadsheet with where my money is. This is the lawyer you call. But what I want to be remembered, beautiful.
Let's do a rando pull, shall we?
Sure.
Okay, I'm going to put my mic down for just a second. Hopefully it's not making any weird noises. Let me take these out. I like the fact that we can shuffle. Okay, you pull.
Okay, I'll have to get my glasses, though, if I'm going to be
Excuse
doing
me,
the
could the
reading.
studio assistant help us with the glasses?
I have
Oh,
them.
no, she has them. Okay. All right, you're going to pull a card. There's some precursor notes and how-to, so I pulled those out. All right. Do I need my glasses? Let me get them.
Oh, I love this one.
All right.
But it might have to be for, do you have pets?
Yes, and
Okay,
this was the
doesn't-
card I liked because we are
Oh,
getting a
good.
new pet on Saturday.
This is great.
Yes.
In the zombie apocalypse, you have been turned into a mindless zombie. The good news, animals have been unharmed. Name the person you would have trust with your pets. And then we have the take action. Name the person who should take care of your pets in the event you can no longer care for them.
Well, I feel like I'm in the zombie apocalypse because I have had 3 nights of waking up every day at 3 a.m. So I'm qualified to answer this. We lost a pet last year that we had for 15 years and it was devastating, and it died of heart failure. And we are picking up our new Havanese next Saturday. And so when I read this question, it's perfect. First of all, it'd probably be my daughter, Ava, if she lived close and she had the means to take on. His name is either going to be Nico or Milo.
Yeah.
And if not, our very family-oriented friend, Linda TJ. She has been the so-called old auntie. And we would ask that she took care of him.
I love that, right? Because these are things, there's so much that you have to think about with end of life that your pets, nobody may know.
Right, and it's important.
It's
I'm not
important.
going to be like Leona Helmsley and put him on a trust fund. Maybe I will. I don't know. Okay, I'm going to pull one for you.
Okay.
Ooh, I pulled 2, so that means we're going to have to read 2. Oh, no, it's a zombie apocalypse, and they've eaten your brains. I read this one at like 6 in the morning with like the 3rd cup of coffee. But your heart is still beating, and you're still breathing. Would you want us to keep your body alive if your brain doesn't work anymore? This is an excellent question.
This is actually, I am going to sidetrack a little bit with this, because when my husband when they told us we couldn't do anything else, right? I probably would have kept him alive forever.
Right.
And the doctor came up to me. He goes, Dawn, we need to sign the DNR, the doctor and the nurse. We didn't do that. And I go, I know my husband wanted that. DNR, do not resuscitate, in case people don't know. I said, I know my husband wants that. I go, but I can't sign it.
Why?
I would have just kept him alive.
Okay.
And it was,
this is important to know.
It was this thing that we didn't have settled, and I wouldn't do it. So for me, oh my God, I keep telling my son I want to be around forever in case they get a cure.
I tell Ava to taxidermy and put me up in the corner so I can look at her.
Yeah.
She doesn't like that very much. All right, I'm going to read the other one because we pulled.
But I love that we're one of the things at W Connection, I just want to say this to make sure that people realize that I get, here's the good. So W Connection has this thing called step outs.
Yes.
So what they are is they're more social events, but every event with the W Connection, you're talking, you're meeting people. And every event will end up at a restaurant, and there's always, say there's like 20 of us, and I have the W Connection signs, and we're all there, and we're all laughing. Inevitably, somebody leans over to us, and they go, what group is this? What do you have to do to join this group?
You have to be dead or someone you know is dead.
And we start cracking up. I think what it is that I think that devastating loss has to come out one way. So I really want people to understand that I get it. Like, I sob through my bereavement group, but I also laugh with these women who get where I am. So I want people to realize is that even my son and I, when we were playing this game, it's like, there was stuff like, this is good.
And by the way, we're not playing the game the way that it's meant to be played right now. We're just kind of going through the cards. We might facilitate a card game in the future, but I want to read this one. Some ethical aliens have snatched your body, but they need consent from someone on your behalf for their invasive probes. Who is the person you would like the aliens to speak to on your behalf? Name the person to make decisions if faced with a condition that impairs your ability to manage your own medical care. So I've told Troy this one in the beginning. I'm like, look, if I'm out of my mind, give me the pill. If I cannot be productive in some way, like if my mind's gone and my body's still ticking, I'm okay. It's okay. And he would be the person that would leave me taxidermied up in the corner. But it's good to talk about. Right. It's really, really good to talk about. And I feel like, again, my perspective, you know, spiritually, the way we were brought up is like, there's a big celebration of life, you know, when you come in, and there's a big celebration at death. And the way that we get through bereavement, at least we did in our family. Now, I have not been a widow, but we would celebrate through the discussion of memories. And good times, and then have our crying times, and then more discussions of funny things, and then crying times. This just puts it out on the table.
Yes, absolutely.
It puts it out on. So what is your hope for these cards? Like, when are they available? Are they available? Are they on the market yet? What are you doing with them?
They're coming in the next few weeks. I mean, my
this is like an insider moment. They're coming in a few weeks.
I have seen what happens when a widow is dealing with all of these issues.
And there's some very serious issues in there.
And if we could alleviate 1, 2, 3, 4 of those issues, or any amount of those issues, we're going to make it easier for her to move through her grief to growth, right? So if I'm struggling with financial issues for the first 2 years, I'm not going to be really thinking about how I'm going to get through get to my growth, right?
Right.
So if you think of that, you know, why do women come from 3 to 5 years? Because somebody might be coming and they may be in a spot where they're dealing with so many different issues that they need to get past those before they can start rebuilding. This helps that process, and that's why I'm so excited about these cards.
I'm excited about them too, and thank you for bringing them to light. You've just made my life so much easier, and I'm so thankful that everybody on Mavs Coffee Clarity got a little bit of an insight before they even hit the market. So you've got a lot going on, and obviously very successful, and we are appreciative of your time today. What's on the bucket list for Dawn?
What's on the bucket? For work or for
Oh, well, we're nosy. We want to know both.
For work, I think that, you know, for W Connection, I laugh because if you were to say anything to me, I'd go, that's on the plan. Like, even one day, I'm like, because pets are so important in my life, I want a foster program for the widows in my organization for dogs. Like, that is on the list. So there's hundreds of things on my list. What we're focusing on right now is the cards, and we're also focused on expanding our in-person clubs, right? So we went virtual, like everybody else, when the pandemic hit, and now we're reopening across the United States. We're going to keep virtual because it is wonderful that I have widows from Brisbane, Australia in my meeting rooms. It's beautiful that we have widows all across the United States and in different countries. So we're going to keep virtual. We're going to keep expanding the in-person. That's the important thing for us. We're going to start getting these cards up and ready to be on sale. Personally, you know, this is interesting. So my husband and I were skiers. We skied every year.
Oh, we're skiers too.
Yay.
Yay.
I need somebody to ski with. See, this is what the things that you lose. So, you know, my husband and I were skiers. We went to Europe a lot. I lived in Japan for one of my jobs on Wall Street. So I lived in Japan, I lived in Hong Kong, I lived in London, and I used to travel to Europe every summer. I did my first trip to Amsterdam with just me and my son. And I did Amsterdam because I knew it was going to be easy, right? I get on the plane, I take the train into Amsterdam. So the next is that next trip with my son. He's 17 now. And there's...
You better hold on and go as you can, because once they get out of college, they don't want to know who that. See you later.
Don't tell me that.
I'll be home for the holidays. Okay, so what's the one piece of advice that you were given that you are glad you said, no, thank you, glad I ignored that?
Oh, my gosh.
What was the hard pass and you're glad?
So my husband went to hospice at Calvary, which is a great hospice. For me, nothing would have been good. But when we were leaving there, a nun stopped me and she said...
a nun?
A nun.
We're quoting the nuns right now. With the last laugh. We got the nuns.
She said, don't do any bereavement work for 6 months.
Why?
And I went, okay. And I kind of was like the first piece of advice that I got. And I was like, I was going to hold on to it because I was going to get through this.
Right.
And 1 month, I'm like, I got to wait another 4 months, 5 months, 2 months. I got to wait more. And then finally, after 3 months, I said, this is crazy.
Yeah, the nun is nuts. Well, to each his own, right?
Yeah. So I listened and then took a hard pass.
And I also know that's what's really important to you. We share a lot of commonalities, but we both love our morning routine. Our morning routine sets the tone of the day. Is that your best life hack, or do you want to share another one? Or do you want to tell us, like, what fuels you to be you?
I think for me, it is my morning routine. So every morning, I had to, this is one of the ways I walk back into my life. So we live very close to Central Park. I have a dog. Every morning before 9, dogs are allowed off leash. It is beautiful.
I'm going to say it's like mayhem. It's like dark comedy.
It's mayhem. It's so funny. My husband and I embraced it. We loved it. We got engaged in the park with the dog. And doing that walk every morning before you start the day, before you start work, before you start everything that's coming out at you, to go in that park, take a moment with my friends, with my dogs, going through the Northwoods, seeing the beauty of the Northwoods in Central Park. And then when I'm coming out of the park, I go, okay, what's on the agenda for today? And then it's like when I get to my desk, I could, bang through everything that I need to do.
And as we wrap it up, my friend, you have been a star-studded inspiration for us today. And I know you think it's fabulous to have post-trauma growth. What is your go-to for somebody that's suffering right now other than becoming a member? What can they do? And I know you're not going to say what the nun said.
No, I think that know that this is hard. One of the things that I struggled with in the beginning is I kept getting angry at myself. I would go, Dawn, you've been through so much. Why can't you do this?
Right.
Why can't you figure out how to do this? And I would get mad at myself. Know that this is devastating. Know that this is traumatic. Give yourself a pat on the back for every step you take.
Wow. Now that's another bean, my friend. Where are we finding you, Dawn? Where are we finding you? wconnection.org?
Yep, wconnection.org.
This has been an incredible Dawn has spilled her beans here on Mav's Coffee Clarity. I'm so appreciative of you. And if the message leaves you today, don't be angry. Just move forward. You're enough. You're good enough. You're more than enough. And visit Dawn at WConnection if you are unfortunately in bereavement. Peace out, my friends. Mav has got to get back to work. Hey, that's a wrap for today, my friends. Thanks for listening, subscribing, and staying connected with me. Head on over to DeniseDiGregoli.com and learn a little bit more about my creative and strategic consulting services. While you're there, drop your name on the contact page. Sign up for my bi-weekly brew. It's fresh ideas delivered to your inbox a couple times a month for clarity, creativity, and better communication. It's based on my 3 decades as an entrepreneur, helping other people and businesses move forward. It's great business intel and life hacks that you can use for work, life, and self-care. And come on, who doesn't need that nowadays? Have a great rest of your day. Peace out, my friends. Mav has got to get back to work.